Howdy guys and gals, welcome back to The Social Regressive. In the previous video, I talked about the hunt that I went on with Winchester. We went out to Pike County, Missouri with Indian Hill Outfitters, and I was able to bring home a really good doe and a huge buck. And I've got a freezer full of meat back here. If you want to actually see some of the footage from that hunt, go back and check out that and you can hear the whole story. It was a whole lot of fun, and I learned quite a bit while I was out there. But today I want to talk about some of the gear that I used out there that worked out really well. I'll talk about some of the things maybe I didn't use, maybe some of the things that I can leave home next time, and which things are definitely going with me every time from now on. Now, a lot of this stuff I have taken out on hog hunts and other things in the past. So these are kind of old hat to me, things that I rely on. And probably one of the biggest ones that I'd like to mention right up front are these. When I'm actually up in the stand or when I was in one of the blinds, of course, I wanted to be able to keep track of the animals without having to kind of clunk my gun around. Usually I had the gun either laying across my lap, or if I was in one of the blinds, a lot of the time I just have it kind of leaning up in front of me, because that one's a little bit more awkward and I don't want to be glassing everything with just the scope. So these were indispensable. These are the Bushnell Engage binoculars. I've already done a video on these where I talked about how excellent these are. And I got to double down on it today because these were exactly what I needed out there. These are the 10x42 model, and these have glass that you will not believe until you actually look through them. Of all the binoculars that I looked through over that whole kind of week period that we were out there for about 6 days, 4 days of hunting, and some of travel as well. But when I was actually out there hunting, these were the best binoculars that I looked through, period. Some people had some, kind of older Swarovskis, and I think there were some Zeiss and some other things, and really these just blew them away. Again, I know that a lot of you aren't going to believe me on that. You really need to look through these. In addition to the extreme resolution that you get out of these and the really good color reproduction, these do absorb quite a bit of light. So this is something that I counted on in some of those early hours before dawn and some of those later hours after dusk. I could count on these to not only be able to see the animals and see their movement, but I could use this to count tines. We had some limitations when we were out there. We were not supposed to take out anything with fewer than 4 tines on one side, so it had to be at least an 8-pointer. And in my case, mine was a 7 because that one tine had broken off in a fight. But we couldn't harvest any 6s, and we had to make absolutely sure, so I was relying on these. There were times that my own unaided eyes couldn't really tell what I was seeing, so I relied on these to be able to count those tines and see what kind of animals we had out there. And there were a couple times that I was sure that the next buck was going to be coming down the trail, and I'm watching, and then time expired. But then finally that one did come across. All the controls on here are easy to use. It's easy to spin focus. It's very quiet and very smooth, and you get just enough resistance that it doesn't feel like you're going to accidentally move it from whatever focal spot that you have. It just rolls very easily with that little bit of extra pressure on there. The eye cups are the twist up kind, so you can put these all the way down if you want to have your shooting glasses or your prescription glasses and just kind of bonk these up against there. And then you can twist these back out to fit your eyes. These are not the most comfortable eye cups. It's kind of a harder rubber, and these sort of sit right against the top bones right here. So not ones for, keeping on your eyes for extremely long periods of time, but for this sort of thing, it's just fine. One of the greatest things about this is that the diopter adjustment is not going to accidentally spin on you. It locks. So I can push it up, and now it can float. And then I just push it back down to lock it into place. Really, really cool. These are very secure out in the woods. The lenses have something called the exo barrier on them that repels everything. I've had all kinds of crud get on these. They say that even sap won't stick to these, fingerprints won't. There really is just about nothing that can stick to these lenses. And that is very handy out in the field. If these get wet, if it's foggy conditions, if there's sap, if there's dirt, whatever, it does not matter. Your lenses are going to be protected, and they're not going to want to scratch either. So for hard use, highly recommend the Bushnell Engage binoculars. There's also the Forge if you want to take things up a notch. They're going to have a higher price tag, and you'll get into some larger objective lenses, and some of those just have a few extra tricks up their sleeve. And just based on the difference between the Engage optics and the Forge, you're going to get a little bit better resolution as well. So probably edge to edge they'll be even better, although these, can't complain about them at all. One of the first items that I used when I got up into the tree stands or into a blind is this right here. This is the Nikon Monarch 3000 stabilized rangefinder. So this has some extreme distance going on. The 3000 stands for the maximum yardage. If you get something that's reflective, like a really good sign, then this will actually pick things up past 3,000 yards. I've actually done it myself, and that's rare, and the battery has to be pretty fresh. But when it comes to practical things like this, it's just perfect. I don't have to brace it up against anything because of that stabilizer. All I have to do is just roughly aim at whatever it is that I'm trying to get, like a tree, a little clump of trees, some bushes over here, some landmarks. Once I got up in this stand, I just picked out various spots that I thought were important, figured out what the distances were, committed them to memory, and then I would put this away. I didn't want to actually try to laze the distance to the deer itself. There's no need to if I know what the landmarks are. But this was a very handy piece of gear, and some of the guys that tested this out at the range, they were blown away by the fact that you can have a stabilized rangefinder. I think some of them might be picking one of those up. Other electronic stuff, I did actually make sure to protect my hearing, and more than that, these Champion Vanquish hearing protectors, I was just blown away by how these performed. First off, they're very comfortable. I've talked about this before. I'll link to the full video where I talked about these beforehand, where I had tested them a little bit, but I hadn't actually used them that much out in the field. And now that I've actually taken these out deer hunting, these are going with me every single time. These are going out hog hunting, deer hunting, for a couple of very important reasons. Okay, now these are extremely comfortable. You can see their shape, how it actually is kind of ear-shaped, which is pretty unique in the industry. It covers the whole thing. So I'm not pressing into different parts of my ear. It covers the entire thing and makes a nice tight seal all the way around. There are lots of these hearing protectors, especially the electronic ones, that if I'm using a loud rifle, it's still gonna ring my ears inside here. And with these, no. All the shots that I took while I was out there, with that 22-inch barrel, it just didn't ring my ears. Everything was perfectly quiet on the inside, except when I turned the electronics on, and that's where these become, I think, indispensable hunting units. The walkers are fine. I'm not gonna say anything against them. I think the walkers are great, and these are some that they kind of have their own little tricks. Like I say, it has the special shape, and then when you first turn these on, it's actually a little bit on the loud side. So for example, these are terrible for mowing your lawn. You don't want to use it for that. For hunting though, these are perfect because these are going to pick up not just every little grunt and wheeze and whatever noises that the animals are making out there, even them just stepping in the leaves out there. They're going to pick up your sound, and they're going to tell you if you're making too much noise. And so I relied on these and was able to bring deer very, very close in without them getting spooked at all. I had some does just walk up, probably within 10 yards of my blind. And because I am being perfectly still and hopefully not very stinky, they just weren't bothered at all. So I could hear, if I creaked when moving on a chair, if, my sling bonked against something, I could hear every little thing through these, and that to me became indispensable. I found that when I was up in some of the stands, I would, crank this up a good bit, and I could hear just all those tiny little movements that I was making, and it helped me to be a better hunter. Really cool. The only thing that I think could be improved on this, I'd like to see some more, kind of tactical colors. This gray is great for the range, and okay, it's fine for hunting, but there is a light up here as well, so you can see that I put some electrical tape over that so I wouldn't be bothering anything in the darker hours of the morning or night. It has a comfortable headband that can expand enough to get over a hat. Can't say enough good about those. Make sure you check out that video that I did before. Everything that I said there is absolutely true, and it's just getting better with every use. These are going with me everywhere now. While we're still looking at electronics, let's take a look at this right here. This is how I got some of the pretty spectacular footage of what it's actually like to take the shot. You were actually looking through my scope. This was not a fake thing. I didn't put a reticle on top of some video footage like a video camera off to the side. You're actually seeing what I'm doing, and that's because of the Tactacam FTS. So if you want to share your hunt with others, this is the way to do it. If you want to review your hunt, or if you want to review what you do out at the range, this is a really cool way to go. This just attaches to the ocular bell of your scope, and then you take this action camera and you pop it in this section right up top. So this is actually kind of pointing backward at you. It's going through a prism, so the light comes in through the scope, bounces off the prism, it's split some to your eye, and then the rest of it goes to the camera. And that's how you can actually see what your eye is seeing. Really cool setup. And what's really nice about this camera right here is that you can get one of the side mounts as well. It's kind of long and thin, so it doesn't hang off like a GoPro. GoPros can kind of snag on things, and it's easy to get them out of adjustment. Like if you bonk it against a branch, it might be pointing at the sky when it comes time to take your shot. But if you get one of the Tactacam mounts on the side of your gun, you can just point this forward. So if you want to attach it to the scope, do that. If you want it on the side of your bow or your gun, you can just use the camera and one of those special mounts. Some of the other items, okay, so here's some other electronic stuff. Flashlights, I brought a handful because I just like to make sure that I have enough light. A couple of redundant items I like to bring are flashlights and fire starters when I'm going out doing things. So I had the little Olight. This is the i5T EOS. So you get two different modes. You get the kind of moonlight mode, which as you can see isn't really doing all that much, which I love. I always want a moonlight flashlight. And then if I press it again very quickly, then this goes into the 300 lumen mode, and it only uses one AA battery. Easy to have on your person. Some of the others that I relied on, this is the Fenix LD22. I don't think you guys have seen this on the channel yet. This little guy is a wonderful thing for having a very, very low moonlight mode. And then you can scale it up by hitting a side button right back here. So yeah, this one gets up to 300 lumens as well, uses two AA batteries, and has a lanyard. It's just a little bit more difficult to lose because of its slightly larger size. And I did bring this little blue slash UV light right here from Olight as well. This is the i3 UV. We didn't need it. There was just, blood everywhere, and who knows if this actually would have helped. There's some controversy about these lights and blood. If you have any comments about that, go ahead and put them down below. Before heading out on the hunt, I sprayed down with some of this stuff. This is Scent Killer Gold, and this one's, it has this hunt dry technology, which seemed to work really well. I never had any deer get spooked that I could tell from my scent. Even when the wind would go 180, it didn't seem to spook the deer at all, even some of the really alert does. So I think this does work. I sprayed down some of my clothing, especially kind of on the lower side. And the cool thing about this, that hunt dry, means that you don't have to spray yourself just before going out. It doesn't actually have to be wet. You can put this on your clothing a couple days in advance, actually, and it'll still work. So that's what I did. I took my clothes, threw them up on a park bench outside of the lodge, sprayed down some of my clothes with this, and it seems to have worked. Now, it might be that some of these scent killers are all hooey, and it's more just about, controlling your own stink, like, not using any weird industrial perfumes and making sure that you aren't creating a whole lot of body odor. But it seemed to work. It did seem to work. And then afterward, if I wanted to make sure that I wasn't cramping up in the cold or anything, this magnesium oil, highly recommend magnesium oil. I've used this on hikes before and it has saved my bacon because I tend to get some cramps at night when it starts cooling down. For safety, I brought a couple different kinds of glasses. Radian's polarized safety shooting glasses, highly recommended. And then I have some of these clear ones. These are from Rise Armament. It's not like they sell these. These are just kind of branded with their stuff. Love Rise. I don't really wear ball caps, but just wanted to show you that one. It's nice to get a little swag from the Winchester hunt. I actually wore an orange stocking cap to keep my head warm because it was a little cool there. I got this pack of Grimlock and other locking accessories. And these turned out to be really, really cool. I could use these to lock some of my stuff to like accessory bands behind me or onto the stands. If I was up in one of the elevated stands, I could just snap these on really easily. And these guys seem to be pretty tough. I'll put a link to those. I don't know if these are knockoff or if they're the real deal, but they seem to work out pretty well. One thing that I take with me now on all of my hunts is this little guy right here. I think I got this at a dollar store. This is a green, kind of a foam. It's like those foam mats that kids have. They can play on, or those standing mats that you get for your benches. I think this was $1, and it's a knee board for gardeners. And I use this under my butt if I need to, for my knees if I need to kneel and take a shot. So yeah, it helps to make an uncomfortable hunt much better. And it kind of blocks out some of the cold. So if you're sitting on a cold surface, it doesn't go straight up your butt. Dry sack for electronics. One of the cheapo orange vests that you get at Walmart. Love these, you can just throw those over anything. As for keeping warm, I was wearing actually all Walmart stuff, some stuff that I'd picked up a long time ago, and it worked great. I just had some Realtree camo pants, some cargo pants, and a big parka over the top. That's one of the hooded ones. But then these are worth their cost. Actually, okay, the cost part is pretty funny. These usually cost $80, these gloves. If you go to one of the stores right now, you're gonna see these Gore-Tex, these are actually for duck hunting. These are just amazing. I've never had wet hands, ever, with anything that I've done. And I've actually loaned these to some of my buddies that were going out duck hunting. They never had wet hands. They could reach in, pull out a duck, do whatever, grab something at the bottom of the water. As long as it doesn't get over the top, your hands are gonna be dry and warm. And so I relied on these to keep me warm out there. Now, thankfully, a long time ago, I found these on a sale and I got these for $12. But if you see these around, especially if you do get into some of these post-season sales, you really gotta pick up a pair. They are amazing. Trailblazer Sawviver. I always just bring that just in case. I didn't need it for anything on this trip, but a lot of time there's something to saw. Got some big heavy latex gloves. These are just the kind that you use for washing dishes, but that's going to be for gutting deer, dealing with anything messy like that. Poop trowel. An emergency bivvy. So this is one of the reflective ones. If things went really bad, then I could wrap myself up in that. And that's just a good thing to bring around. As you can see, I didn't use it. But then down here, this is my first aid kit, which I did use just a little bit because of that eyebrow nick. The outfitter didn't seem to have any first aid supplies on hand, and all I needed was just to make sure that it was cleaned up, just get a little Neosporin on it, and that's one of the things I carry in here. I have all kinds of stuff for making you poop, making you stop poop, clearing up headaches, treating minor injuries through semi-major-ish ones. There's a lot of stuff in here put together by my wife, who's a nurse. And thankfully, I only needed that for a very minor thing. But then, okay, the pack itself. This is from the Marine ILBE system, the Improved Load-Bearing Equipment System. This is the Assault Pack, and I managed to pick up a couple of these. I think they were 30 bucks a piece a while back on Surplus, and these were in excellent condition. If you can find some of these, buy them. I talked before about the awesome Camelback Rim Runner 22. That is a heck of a day pack. That's the one that I want to take out to do all kinds of fun activities where lightweight is the most important thing. But if I want something that is just plain not going to be damaged by whatever I do to it, this is the pack. This is kind of a heavier Cordura. I think it's a Cordura 500. This sucker is tough. It seems to bounce water off pretty well. And yeah, it can deal with whatever I put it through. I could do anything with this pack, and it'll just absorb whatever I do to it. And then on the inside, I have one of the Camelback Omega hydration bladders back here with the neoprene covered hose. So everything is just, there are no weird colors standing out. Everything is just kind of muted. I can hang this up on the side of a tree and I'm not going to be concerned that it's going to call attention to itself. A couple of items that I always keep in this pack. I have my Black Diamond Spot headlamp. This is the flashlight that I actually use the most out there. This is one that can go very, very dim, and most importantly, it has a red light mode. One great way to preserve your night vision is to use red instead of these, even the moonlight mode. So like this one, it has a spot that you can use. It has more of a fill light that you can use on the side here. So you have some of the more wide view bulbs that don't get as bright. But then for me, the important thing is that red. This one it's kind of tough to get quite enough brightness to walk by this. You can barely do it. You can't see that far ahead with this red. But for dealing with things up close, like getting things out of my pack, kind of moving around in the stand and dealing with things there, this is plenty. This has been a wonderful flashlight, and one that I've probably used more than anything else in my collection. This little towel right here, this is one of the Coleman towels. Again, you can get at Walmart or you can pick up on Amazon. Very handy. And I've used this to keep my rifle clean and dry. For example, on this trip, we did get some rain and sleet, and so when we went to check out the buck, it was actually still raining and sleeting. And I used that to keep rust from building up and just kind of keep everything all neat and clean. But I have all kinds of other little things that I just carry around in here. But one of the most important ones that I can throw out here is my little accessory cord. This could be paracord. I keep some little hanks of paracord in here, but this one is kind of a cheaper rope. I can't remember where I got this, but it has a nice kind of camouflage color to it, and I can use this to haul my gear up to the tree stand. I think that's about it for gear. As for clothing, and I told you I was wearing the Walmart stuff, I did have a good base layer. This is not it. This is some of the cheaper stuff, but I have some from Sportsman's Guide that's it's kind of a green color. You can check out Sportsman's Guide, check out some of their base layers, because I rely on those to keep me kind of warm and dry out in the wilderness. Good stuff. And then I had some wool socks. I had some Darn Tough socks. Love the Darn Tough socks. And I wasn't wearing these boots either. I was wearing my waterproof Redheads. I'll put links to those below if you want to check them out. The old ones used to be called the Voyager. They changed the name. I'll put a link to the more modern ones. Thanks a whole lot to everybody that makes videos like these possible. I hope you got something out of this. For myself, this was a great learning experience to figure out basically that everything I brought out there had worked, that everything was a good match. There are certainly those extra things that I didn't use, but I think that I would still bring them anyway, like the first aid kit and the bivy sack. It's just nice to have a kind of a safety backup in case things go wrong. There are certain safety items I don't want to fudge on. But yeah, everything seemed to work just great. If you have any suggestions for me or for anybody else out there that wants to go out and do similar work like this, like maybe you live in a bit of a colder climate than where we were. Missouri, certainly can get cold, but it didn't this time. Or maybe you're down in some of the more southern areas and you have your own sort of equipment that you like to use. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you like to bring out to the woods. I appreciate all you guys and all the feedback that you give. I learn from you guys all the time. Thank you to patrons of the Destructive Arts that make videos like these possible. You guys rock. Thank you to Sportsman's Guide, Stan and Mary and Tyler at the 338 Lapua Magnum level. And then we have Joseph Davis. We have Mr. No Name, Howard, and Peter at the 300 Win Mag level. And we have a lot of other guys that are chipping in $1 or $2 a month to see how gear like this works and what things are like in the real world. Figure out what different rifles are like and how you can kind of make them into other things that you would like. It's been a lot of fun, and we have more on the way, so yeah, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below when the next videos come out. We have a lot of cool stuff we're getting into, and it's all being brought to you by patrons of the Destructive Arts. So if anybody else wants to chip in $1 or $2 a month, I'll put a link around here. See you guys around. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These 2 videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, The Social Regressive is on Patreon. So you can become a patron of the Destructive Arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.